Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second live stream for CMON Comics Volume 2. My name is Elena. I am joined today by producer Kenneth Tan and our marketing director, Renato Franchi. How are both of you?
I'm good.
Yeah, super. That's my first live for CMON, so I'm excited.
Nice. How are you, Helena?
I'm good. I'm fine. You know something? I'll just say this very briefly, but for those of you who watched the last live stream on Friday, we covered the first 4 titles. So we covered Twilight Imperium, Corrupted Space, Dust, London Falling, Android Run, the Citadel, and
Yeah, you're doing good.
I'm doing good. There's one more. What am I forgetting? Hate.
Hey,
And Chronicles of Hate. So today we'll be covering the remaining titles. If you're interested in knowing more about those titles I mentioned, watch last week's live stream. And I mentioned that there was a World Cup game happening while I was on the stream. And I didn't know the result until I left. And if you watch really closely, you can hear the celebrations of when Brazil scored. So I was under the impression we won, and we did not. And I only found out an hour later.
so you will never do live again when Brazil is
Yes.
playing next World
I
Cup.
cannot
We don't
leave
want
the
to jinx you guys.
Well, anyway, before we start talking about the titles we'll discuss today, I just wanted to bring Renato in really quickly to talk about something that we have been seeing a lot of comments about, and we just wanted to clarify a bit, which is shipping for the project. So, Renato, as our marketing director, what can you tell us about shipping?
No, that's I know a lot. We've read you in the comments, and so the shipping costs that you're saying are really high for the project. Of course, it's those are the costs that we have to apply. Of course, as you know, we don't make any extra money from the shipping. Those are the costs that we are paying to ship the products. Of course, you have to consider that you're not only getting the books, but you're also getting all the miniatures and the game components that we are explaining to you in this live. So this is what we wanted to say to you guys about the topic, I guess.
Yes. We also wanted to to clarify a bit about the escalation, because that's a question that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So the escalation of the shipping prices is not proportional. That's just the way it works. It's a very complicated topic. We have a team that is constantly looking into it and looking at other options. So if we have any news on that end, we will let you know.
Sure.
But it's the reality of international shipping right now. So just wanted to address this really quickly before we start talking to the authors. Thank you, Renato. Renato will return later on in the live stream.
Yeah, it seems like sci-fi movie. I'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah, you will be back. But right now, we will talk first to Dan Abnett, author of Twilight Imperium Firmament. So let's go. And we are back. And now joining us is Mr. Dan Abnett, author of Twilight Imperium Firmament. How are you, Dan?
I'm very good indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Before we start talking about the graphic novel itself, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
I can do my best. My name is Dan Abnett, and for some time now, I have been writing comics, novels, and occasionally games for various different people. I write a lot. I'm known as quite prolific. I hope that doesn't affect my quality of output. You might know me in comics from writing, for example, the run of Guardians of the Galaxy on which the movies were based. And I write a lot of things for Warhammer, for instance, novels, that kind of thing. Yes, comics, games, novels, all sorts of different things. That's what I do.
You name it, you wrote it.
Yes, pretty much.
Well, and what can you tell us about Firmament? Can you give us an overview of the story you wrote for this one?
Yeah, it is sort of at its heart space opera in the best sense of the word. It's sort of fast paced. It's action orientated. It's got lots of twists and turns. I sort of wanted to write something to the best of my ability that I hope will please the existing fans of Twilight Imperium, but also be something accessible for people who don't know what Twilight Imperium is, in as much as we sort of learn a great deal as we go along. But it's the story of a courier who has got to deliver a package to somewhere, to someone, and really doesn't know about any of those things. And it's all the people that she encounters as she tries to do that, and the double crosses and triple crosses that occur as a result of that.
Oh, complicated.
Yes.
And what aspects of Twilight Imperium did you want to make sure were present in the novel?
Yeah, I absolutely did. I will confess now that when I was approached to write this, I had never played Twilight Imperium. I'd heard of the game and I thought it looked interesting, but I'd never played it. So I started to do my due diligence and research and go through it, and was amazed. And first of all, I realized that to my astonishment, I thought, why have I never played? This is exactly the sort of game that I would love to play. What I loved about it was the sheer epic scale of it. The sort of the fact that this sort of a story of sort of civilizations and cultures, the vast amount of that properly old school sense of galactic history and galactic scope and galactic politics, which I absolutely adored. So harking back, I suppose things like Asimov and to certain other games that I played, role-playing games that I played when I was as a kid. There was a great scale to it. Now that scale is really quite difficult to do in a graphic novel, not because you can't draw big pictures, but it's quite difficult to do in terms of anchoring a story on individual characters, because an individual character is going to be tiny in the middle of that. But the one thing about Twilight Imperium that was quite clear was that it was about factions, different factions who would challenge each other and clash with each other, but also sometimes ally with each other in order to bring about different things. So it was about strategy. So that's what I've tried to do by bringing in several different factions, but also sort of having characters representing those. So it's the sort of structure of Twilight Imperium, but played out in terms of individual people and individual ships who are all vying for the same sort of thing. So we get a flavor of that rivalry and those sudden alliances and sudden changes of heart and backstabbing, but also it's done on, I hope, on a level where you are, the reader is connecting to the individual characters and sort of quite rooting for some of them to see whether they're going to make it out alive, that kind of thing. So that was that idea, to try and bring it down into story manageable terms.
Yeah. So a story where while you are seeing an individual's story, you get the sense of this much larger world.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time a character or a faction is introduced, of course, we learn about those. I didn't want it to be exposition heavy, where acres of narrative explaining who all these people were. You basically learn that as somebody arrives, you learn who they are in relationship to who the characters you already know, so that we learn things about them and where they stand and what their interests are. So I thought that was the best way. Like I said, the existing fans of Twilight Imperium will know these things and therefore won't be overburdened with stuff they already know. But new readers coming to this, hopefully we'll have many of those, will go, oh God, I get that. I understand this because it's been given to them in straightforward little pieces of information. You learn what you need to know as each step of the story takes place. And the fact that the main character is essentially quite ignorant of the main plot drivers. Like I said, she's delivering a package. She doesn't know what's in the package. She doesn't know who she's delivering it for. She doesn't know who it's delivering it to. And she doesn't know why it's important and who is interested in it. So every step of the way, she is learning things that then again that the audience will learn the story through her and her experience.
Right. As a Twilight player myself, I think when I come into this, I know the factions and I see an actual human being represented, and it brings down like the wide view into like a singular person, and the story is told by through this one person. Like Grala, I think I was reading the anyway, the sample of the Twilight Imperium comics is also out on the website if you want to read. Oh, there we go. There's some samples here.
Yeah,
we have a few of them.
I have to say, can I say that I think the art on this is absolutely gorgeous. Montos has done such a fantastic job, and the coloring really helps to bring that cinematic feel to things. But I wanted to maintain the sort of a very straight structured panel layout, so nothing too fancy. So we maintained that sort of cinematic thing, but really pull out, as you can see in the bigger panels there, just pull out to really establish things and to show the big scale of stuff. And also, my script is full of references that must have driven the artist absolutely mad, where I say, well, why don't we see this, like the last panel on that third page there, we're looking down at a planet from above an orbiting ship. So the ship is between us and the planet. And that was the sort of thing I was thinking, we're in space, we could do these sort of storytelling things. We need to let our readers have some sense of where things are in relation to each other, what's up, down, and sideways, which is very difficult to do when you're just in blackness with stars behind you. So every possible trick of literally sort of cinematic storytelling that we could do, and I would put these things in, and he has done them beautifully. So there's one point where we, just after this sequence actually, where we get what amounts to a car chase in space. And that sounds like the sort of car chase is the sort of thing you'd avoid in a comic anyway. But certainly a car chase with spaceships chasing each other in space seems like a disastrous thing to try and do. But he does it absolutely superbly, because we always know where we are in relation to each other and what they're doing. And the velocity and dynamism in that sequence is just fantastic. He's also, as you can see, really good at putting expression and character even into quite non-human characters, so that Grala is the Hakan, is the lion-like character. She's the main character of this, and she's got such personality comes through in her expression and her demeanor and everything. So you can tell I'm really pleased with how this has turned out.
True. Yes, and it also comes with the two graphic novels for Twilight Imperium. Also come with 12 faction ships, which we showed half last week, and we have the other half here. Kenneth, can you introduce us to them?
Yeah. So actually, the Hakan one, this story uses different factions from the other stories, and then the ones that I showed here actually it's a bit mixed. Anyway, we see the Wraith Cable, the Ixchar Kingdom, the Mantak Coalition, the Barony of Letvev, the Nomad, and the Federation of Soul. So I think last week we went through the Hakan one and one of the other ones, the Jonah and the LIZIX. Mentioned these names confuse me. I think the coolest one from this set of 6 is the Wraith Cabal faction. As you can see here in my hand, I have it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it may not be like what you think is a typical flagship for the game, but it is, right? Because these are an organic faction. They don't have technology. They are organisms. So as per the last 6, when you start the game, you choose your faction color, which you have the basis for, and all of these are detachable. And as you choose your faction, you just place it on, and this becomes your flagship. This is the Mentat Coalition. Yep. And this is the Ixchar. Actually, the extra actually has more detail behind. So if you saw from the renders, you only see the front, but like it actually has more details inside it. It's quite intricate.
True. It
Very
looks
much
like
so. I was going to say, I love the fact that in this game that you can tell the origin technology and culture from the ship designs. They are each one is so inventive, but distinct from the others, which is really terrific. And again, one of the things that drew me into it immediately, I went, somebody's really thought about how this works.
Well, Dan, I think we're nearing the end. I have a final question for you before we move on to the Zombicide segment of the live stream, which is, after your research and after writing this epic story of many factions, which faction are you hoping to play on your first play of Twilight Imperium?
Well, for reasons that would probably condemn me if I admitted, I would want to be the Mentat Coalition. I have to say that was.
Okay,
I came to like them very much in the course of writing this, so that's probably where my loyalties would be at the moment. But I'm prepared to be dissuaded, and of course, like them, I might change sides at a moment's notice. So.
That is true. What? Oh, just as a final curiosity, what is your preferred faction, Kenneth? Since you're a player,
Actually, I like the Will Wraith. They're very cool. They're one of the more unique ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ship is indeed that's why their ship is so cool. Now everything makes sense. Well, thank you for joining us today, Dan, and everyone. We will now talk to Renato Franchi about Zombicide, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. I got it wrong. What happened? It's okay. You saw nothing.
Hello again.
Hello. And we are back with Mr. Renato Franchi stepping in for Stefano Vietti, the author of all Zombicide comics. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like the showrunner of all our Zombicide comics lines. So I've got a big burden on my shoulder right now because it's really a master of Italian. He's been writing comics for the last 30 years, I think. Now everybody will think that it's super old, but it's really a nice person. It's an amazing writer. He's written sci-fi, he's written horror comics, and so it's the fantasy a lot for most of his life. So it's the perfect writer for this kind of project, I think it shows. He's also the writer of the first comics that we did a couple of years ago, so that you probably read.
Yeah. Before we start talking about the Zombicide comic itself, I just saw a question here that I think we can get before we move on. Are the Volume 1 comic books available or being reprinted? So, Kenneth, do you want to tackle that, or should I?
I mean, I think we covered it in the last one. The Volume 1 comic books are going to be available for retail coming January. Of course, this is different from the Kickstarter. You don't have the comics extra, so you're not going to get the miniatures and the gameplay content, but they will be still available in hardcover.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, and the very first one is January, like very soon, like 18th, 17th, something similar.
Yeah.
And the other one should come soon. So the Volume 1 comic project, we had Zombicide Volume 1, and now we have Zombicide Volume 2, Dead in the Water. So what can you tell us about Dead in the Water, Renato?
Yeah, with Dead in the Water, we get back to the group we saw in the first volume that was called Day One. At the end of that story, we had Amy, Kiko, and Diana. Amy, of course, is the classical character from Zombicide, while Kiko and Diana were the new one. They survived the first outbreak, and now they are still trying to survive, and they got recruited by this new character that's called Brian. That's the next CIA agent, and Brahim, that is also another new character, for a mission that involves recovering a medicine for a character that's very close to Brian. I don't want to spoil anything more. And the mission involves going on a cruise ship. So it's a very new setting for Zombicide, and it's really exciting. It goes really up-tempo, and it's a very, very cool story. And of course, it can be easily read even if you skip the Volume 1, because of course, the stories are in continuity, but the story is self-contained, so it's pretty easy to follow, even if you skip the first volume.
I actually love how the characters evolve. I think Amy and Keiko were my like favorite characters, and then just to see
Yeah.
Keiko come back and have a character evolve. I think in her bio somewhere it says that she's embraced her yakuza side of her, and then she shaved bald and she has tattoos now and everything.
Yeah.
She's a katana. It's cool to see the characters that you read evolve as time progresses in the different comics.
Yeah, I think also it's very, very cool to see the mix between the character that you've known since forever. Now, I forgot to mention in this book we are introducing Doug. That's another, of course, classical fan favorite of Zombicide. Interact with the new characters, and you grow attached to both the new and the old characters. It's very nice.
It's really good to see Doug again. I see him every day at the office. If for those who don't know, I mean, most of you won't know, but in the office, Doug is our go-to character for reference for most of our miniatures. Like, pull out a Doug, and then everyone's like, yeah.
Doug for
Doug's everywhere.
comparison.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always the comparison
That's the
model.
measure. That's the measure of everything, Doug.
In 1.5
Scale and
Dougs.
clear.
Our next miniature game is 1.5 Dougs, as compared to our previous one, which is 0.75 Dougs.
It's the official CMON measure.
Yeah.
I see a few questions here about the pre-order itself, I guess. So, did we ever get a definite answer for how long the pre-order will remain open? So, Kenneth, I think we answered this one in the last live stream as well. But
Yeah.
for those joining
So
us now,
we're going to have the pre-order open for a couple of weeks. We do not have a definite closing time, but we'll definitely announce at least a good week ahead of in advance before we close the pre-orders. But you should be safe for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
and are the 2 missions of Zombicide Dead in the Water compatible with 2nd edition?
It's actually made specifically for 2nd edition, right? So it follows. I think Renato has also
Yeah.
explained it. It takes place alongside the comic book, at least using the story of the comic books. So the main characters will go on a zombie cruise, and yeah, and entertainment ensues on this.
Crazy
zombie
crazy
cruise.
thing will happen, of course.
Definitely, yeah. So it is compatible with 2nd edition.
Yeah.
Renato, can
And
you
also
tell
the
us-
art from Francesco is amazing, as you might see, but it's really good and gorgeous, and I think it's really in beat with all the graphics of the game also, so it feels definitely the same universe. You feel like you're in it.
That's actually a good cue to the question I was going to ask, which is what aspects of the game can fans expect to see in the graphic novel?
Well, of course, Stefano as I am, but of course, Stefano wrote it, so it's a lot more entitled. Is a huge fan of the game, and it shows in all the aspect that is decided to bring into comic books, because of course you have to decide which aspects you have to incorporate in order to make it a very good comics that's coherent with the game. You are seeing vehicles, of course. You will be seeing. We were talking about a mission that the team is going to start and has to fulfill to get a specific object from a specific place. So that's for sure. It's an aspect of the game that's translated definitely well. The noise system is there, so the idea of a character that can make noise to move the attention of the zombies to him while his party members perform the mission. So I think that Zombicide player will definitely feel like this is, as in effect it is, the official Zombicide comics. So a lot of these elements are there, and you will have to find them, but are all there.
And speaking of the game, we do have the components that come with it here, and this is very different from what we've seen so far, because there are those mysterious figures to the right. So what
yeah,
are those? Yeah.
So no, we're not supposed to say. I mean, you can probably guess, but so the thing is that for Comics Volume 2, a lot of the gameplay content may contain potential spoilers for the comic books. Hence, we white them out or black them out so that you won't see them. But you can definitely tell that they look like zombies, they're shaped like zombies, and they are definitely different from your regular walkers. Specifically for Zombicide Dead in the Water, the gameplay content, we didn't want to use, well, we wanted to stay true to the comic book. So when the missions take place in the ship, we also have the mission tiles of the ship. So specifically, we have, I think, 4 new mission tiles just specifically for these missions. I can run through the names of the survivors if you'd want them. So most of them, you actually see them from the ship. So from top left to right, we have Mavis. She's an old grandma chilling in the boat. Yeah, she just wants to rest, but like zombies come in. You see her little camera around her neck. Harold, the second guy, he's the magician, very clearly from the ship as well. His saw comes in handy now. That the next one is Brian. He's the CIA agent, and then Helmlock. He's the captain of the ship. In the second row, we have Walter. I think he's a bartender, and then like he has a bag of Molotovs which he uses his alcohol from. Keiko, which is different. She has no hair and she doesn't hold the giant halberd. And then what's the other guy?
Brahim. That's Brahim.
Brahim. Yeah, Brahim. And the last one is Julie, who is a waitress, I think.
Yeah, we'll see also that I think that's a nice touch to the story. We'll see all the interaction between different groups of survivors, and that's something that it's really a nice dynamic to be seen on page. But I don't want to spoil anymore because I'll be ruining you the story. But it's a nice interaction.
Definitely.
I see a question here. Let's answer it. Confusing. Will Volume 2 comics also come to retail?
We have plans for it. I can't say that we have plans for it. We have plans for it, but as per the Comics Volume 1, if we're going to bring these to retail, they will not include the gameplay elements. So if you want the missions, if you want the figures, you should get them during this pre-order period.
People apparently Maeve is the most popular character so far, which I totally get. Look at her.
It's understandable, I think.
Well, anything else to add here, or should we move to Black Plague? You all ready?
I would say we can move to Black Plague for the first time, into comics, translated into comics.
That's right. This is Volume 1, while Dead in the Water is Volume 2. The Black Plague comic has never been done before. So let's have our segue.
Hold on. I actually do want to say it's just a stupid small tidbit. Apparently, Mavis, who is your favorite character now, apparently, is a sniper. So her old lady glasses actually helps her to see better, so she can snipe from afar. I think her skills reflect that as well. It's cute. Anyway.
Okay, that seals the deal. Best character.
It's getting better and better as we speak.
Everything I know about her, grandma, sniper. Perfect. Well, then let's talk about Zombicide Black Plague. And we are back, the same people.
Nice. It's nice that we are I'm getting 3 times the theme song. It's amazing.
That is true. And I failed in changing our identity. Here it is. Okay. So now we'll talk about Zombicide, Black Plague, Road to Hell, Volume 1, as we were saying. So what can you tell us about Road to Hell, Renato?
Okay, so I think you were about to show the cover by Paul Bonner, which is pretty amazing. So I don't know if you want. Oh, okay, here it is. So for the first time, we were saying we brought the Black Plague word into comic books, and as I was mentioning, Stefano is a hardcore fantasy writer, so it's. You can expect a story that has all the classical elements that you can expect in a fantasy book, with, of course, the Black Plague identity. There's this very old wizard, very powerful wizard, that's Theinar, that's trying to stop the plague, but something bad happens to him. Again, I don't want to spoil anything. and a rescue group made by his assistant, which is an elf, Lewin, and a dwarf, Draka, paladin, Otto, and a thief that's called Freya. They are going and try to save him, and of course to stop the plague, because what would Black Plague be without a necromancer? So of course there's a necromancer, and they have to stop him, to try and stop him. So this is the basic story of the volume, and you will see also other typical. I won't spoil again everything, but you will see other typical location of very very good fantasy you will find in Zombicide Black Plague Road to Hell.
Well, we do have a few pages here to look at, and we can see some interesting things here. But just like in the Zombicide comic, I'll ask the same questions. What part of the game, like that is specific to Black Plague, can you expect to see here?
Yeah, of course. I was just telling about the necromancer, which is difficult, very difficult. I spoke with intensively with Stefan. Of course, it's a very very easy mechanic to be put on in a game, but it's very difficult to make it coherent when you are developing a character. So they just appear. Of course, they will have the zombies fighting for them, and it's I think the most understandable mechanic that you will get from Black Plague system. And you will find, because Kenneth will be talking about the components in a while, but there's also some massive darkness elements that will be named, that will be touched. So for the first time we are having a crossover between two of our games. So it's also all these kind of elements have to be taken into consideration. So it's really a wonderful work of writing, and also of course of art. The art by the artist's name is Rizzato, and it's really gorgeous.
On that last page to the right, do I spot Dragonfire?
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure. Yeah. That's no spoiler. You're showing the page, so
yes,
for sure.
This isn't the. By the way, this isn't the sample. You can read in our page. There is a sample for each comic book. By the way, when we launched the page last week, we did not yet have the samples for Dust
Death May Die.
and Death May Die, and they are now up, so you can read all of them. We encourage you to. They look great, as you can see.
Yeah.
And Kenneth, what can you tell us about these characters and how they translate to gameplay? In there's a lot of them, right?
There are way too many. I don't want to really run through the names, but okay, so we get your 12 basic survivors. You have your one necromancer. You have three hidden characters. We can say that at least one is an abomination. The other two we have to find out. Well, yeah. So I think that's it, right? We have one mission, and the survivors go along with it, and we have the massive darkness crossover components as well. We are still finalizing that. We have an idea of how to do it. And yeah, I've not much to say about Black Plague actually. A lot of it is a mystery. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to pick that question, and you answered first. Yes, we will have crossover character cards.
Definitely.
Yes. And apparently that's not finalized yet, so we don't have the answer for that. But I can probably take a few guesses at what classes these guys will be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you're holding a staff, you're most likely a wizard. If you're a sword, you're like a fighter. I think like a lot of this, I've read the samples. I actually have read most of this comic. I really like the villain. He's a guy that you really, really love to hate. His appearance in the first chapter really reminds me of how, like, when in a D&D campaign, like, you introduce the big bad, he comes in and he wrecks everybody. It's awful. It's terrible, but it's so fun to read.
Love me a good villain. Yeah.
Also, like, there are a lot of things like nuances, because I ended up processing and looking through the bios for each of the characters. So if you see their bios from the page, you actually learn a lot more about the backstory and the history of the characters before reading the comic book, and that informed the characters through the comic book, and that also helped me. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. What you're saying is perfectly true, because part of the characters already knew each other from you can see in the comics that they have a backstory, and I think it would be really entertaining to read it before even going to the comics, because we are in like it was a new adventure of some characters that knew each other. So yeah.
It adds an interesting depth to the game as well when you really feel like you know those characters that well, because that's not really usually how Zombicide works. You get a new character and you develop a relationship with him, and this time you will approach it already you know this guy, he is like my favorite character or not. So that has an interesting depth to it.
It adds a lot of layers of depth to the game. I think it's true for all the comics we are presenting, and of course, especially for the Zombicide franchise. But yeah, definitely.
Well, any final words about Black Plague before we move to space with Invader?
No, I think we covered the minis. Of course, are amazing. I can say to Kenneth, because of course he can say by himself, but they are astonishing. I think it's an amazing work.
The sculptors really put a lot of work and effort into this. They look very nice. Yeah.
And this is a universe that is very, very visual. Right? It allows for a lot of details and an interesting universe there. Okay, so let's talk about Invader. I'll see you all in a few seconds. And we are back.
Yeah.
Okay, this was your third and final segue.
Yeah, I'm almost sad because I want to hear again the music. I will stay to hear Francesco talk so I can hear again the music.
This will be recorded, though. You can watch it. You can watch it again. Well, of course, the final Zombicide title is Volume 2 of Zombicide Invader, which is called Playing Prometheus. So what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, of course, this is the sequel of the first volume, Dead Contact, that we did in the previous project. So we go back to planet PKL7. We go back to the survivors that are trying to resist the invasion, and to Arizona Kane, which is this kind of I would say anti-hero, because in reality is a prisoner that has escaped, has taken control of a ship that went into the planet. So it's really the prototypical anti-hero, and is fighting to survive. And they manage in the first book to get emergency signal to outside the planet to get help. But the help that comes is actually in the form of Cassian Lloyd, which is a very, very bad guy, but a bad guy that you love to hate, as Kenneth was saying about the Necromancer in the previous comic. He's a badass guy with a katana that wants to, in some sense, restore this the null status quo on the planet, but with violence and force. So we'll have to have a resistance with all the survivors that were fighting the Xenos, and now they are fighting the Black Squad led by Cassian Lloyd. And we also see some traitors inside the good squad. So it's really a complicated story. And we will what I find really interesting about this book is that we dive deep into what are the Xenos, what's their backstory, what do they come from, why they come in different shapes, and it's really a nice way of telling it that Stefano and his team has found. So I really find it to really give a lot of depth to the Invader world, and it's a must read if you are an Invader fan.
Or a comics Invader 1 fan. Like, I remember, like, Yuko is on the front cover, and she was a character from... She was on the front cover of Volume 1 as well. She's now more senior. I guess she's older. Did she increase her rank? I don't recall. But like, okay, so like this is a thing. I remember in Volume 1, people were saying, because in her bios it was like, oh, if she doesn't use a pistol, she has her trusty katana, and everybody in the comments were like, where's the katana? Where's Yuko's katana? Now we have added Yuko's
Yeah,
katana.
now you have it. Now you have the katana.
You
Yeah.
wanted a katana, you have a katana.
Oh, I was hoping we could see it here.
Oh
No.
Yeah. No, you see, well, you see it
You-
from her past actually, because there's
Oh, true.
a flashback from when she knew Cassian Lloyd. So I
Mhm.
was speaking about traitors, and so of course
Oh.
you've already understood who the traitor is and what's obscure plan she might have for the planet. So yeah, it's really an interesting plot twist to see the heroine from the first book becoming an evil character on the second.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and we do have gameplay components as well, less crowded this time, but some really cool things to see here.
Yeah,
Like-
I think like the Android one also. So Invader has the bot mechanic. So
Yeah.
we have the APE002 serve bot. I think that's his name. I actually really like this bot because I was going through the BIOS, and its quote was, "I can do this all day," like Captain America. Only if they're like something along, as long as the tasks are not complex. Because apparently the BIOS for this bot is he's extremely durable. He lasts an extremely long time, but he can only do simple tasks. Like he has no offensive capabilities, only defensive capabilities, and so he can do this all day as long as the tasks are not complex. It tickled me. It's very funny. Oh yeah, and you can see Yuko with the katana,
Yeah.
the second character.
And
yeah.
yeah, we'll know a lot more about this katana. There's a katana mystery that will be unfolded during the course of the story.
What? Really? I didn't know there was a katana mystery.
Yeah. Now you know. Now you have to read all the
Now I have
comics.
to read. Yeah. I thought this abomination was also actually very interesting. So of course we have the missions. I think it's called Xeno Secrets, together with the Invader gameplay content, and this abomination is called the Dim Butcher Abomination. He's lab grown, and he's like a cockroach. Apparently, he can slip through tiny spaces in corridors. Also, he gains the DNA traits of the people he consumes. So, yeah, be wary of this
Real
guy.
bad.
Yeah, real bad.
I see a question here. Why is this figure black? We can see it on the pages you put on your website. Yes, but if you haven't read it,
Wait,
This-
we can see it on the pages you put. No, it's blacked out on the website as well.
no, not the figure, but the sample pages.
Ah, right. Oh well, yeah. If for those who have not read it, this is also a potential spoiler for the story,
Yeah.
so we've kept it secret for now.
Yeah.
Hidden. Yeah.
And people asked, is she a new Ultimate Survivor version?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Who
We'll
knows?
find out.
Oh no. Okay. I think that's the content we had for Invader, unless you have something to add before we move to Death May Die.
I just want to add that one of the content it's really a familiar face for me, and now I want to play Invader with the character. I won't point him out, but Kenneth I think knows who I'm talking about, but it's really a pleasant surprise.
Oh, really? The chef?
Yeah, the chef. Yeah. It's
I
lacking.
really-
It's lacking some dolphins. It's lacking some dolphins, but I think it's a familiar face.
Right.
Okay. Lots of-
Anyway,
That's
so
an
yeah.
obscure comics. There's an obscure comics reference. That's
Oh.
don't mind us. Yeah.
I was wondering. I don't understand this reference. Welp, then I guess I'll say goodbye to Renato after joining us for 3 comics in a row. Thank you so much. And
thank you guys. I hope I did a good Stefano Vietti impersonator. So I will ask him how did I go.
yes, I hope he's watching. It's sadly he wasn't able to join us, but I hope he's watching. Hi, Stefano, if you are. Thank you so much for writing these. We love them.
Or maybe he will catch up later with the video. I will send it to him.
Well, thank you, Renato. I hope to talk to you soon. And next up, let's talk to Francesco Nepitello about Cthulhu Death May Die.
Bye, guys.
And we are back, now joined by Francesco Nepitello, author of Cthulhu Death May Die, A Touch of Providence. How are you, Francesco?
I'm fine, thank you. And I was just enjoying all the presentations of the comics so far.
Before we start talking about the comics, can you introduce yourself for those who don't know you? Because for people who follow our Kickstarters, you have become quite a familiar face lately. But for those who maybe don't, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, the last time someone may have seen me is for the Kickstarter for Dune: War for Arrakis, that me and Marco Maggi and the long list of developers and collaborators have been working for a long time, a big strategy game based on the novel by Frank Herbert. So yes, you've been certainly saw me for that. But yeah, I'm a game designer. I'm working for CMON as for role-playing games to manage the team that is responsible for role-playing games and other types of narrative games. You have seen some of our work also through Van Chronicles that is on the shelves. So yeah, we've been busy.
Yes, that's for sure. And what can you tell us about A Touch of Providence? So this is volume 2 of the Death May Die comics, right?
Yes, that's a new episode of the story that is inspired by Death May Die. That is a game that, of course, is based on the stories by H.P. Lovecraft. So H.P. Lovecraft is probably my second love, or at least at the same level of Tolkien, because as other people may know, I'm also a game designer for The One Ring, the role-playing game on Tolkien, and other games based on the Lord of the Rings. But I have been a huge fan of Lovecraft stories since ages. So for me, that's absolutely like a dream come true to have been working on a story based on the stories by Lovecraft. Just to tell you, I was in Providence this summer. Because I wanted to to be in the place. And the story has been written by Umberto Pignatelli and me and myself. But both me and Umberto, who's another game designer in the team, and who's also a story writer. But we're not comic book writers. So the actual story has been transformed into a script by no less than Luca Enoch, who's a huge name in comics, especially in Italy. But and together with Stefano Vietti, they worked on Dragonero, who's a huge title for fantasy, and Gea and Lilith, many other games. And of course, it's been made possible by a team of artists and colorists and so on. So I'm almost as eager to see what's in the book as the fans, because I have provided a story, but of course, as you may know, the transition between a story and an actual script is a huge one. So I'm looking forward to see what happened to those ideas. What we try to do with this one compared to the first one, has different aspects. On one side, we wanted to continue the story something from what we've seen in the first episode. So there are some recurring characters mainly the protagonist of Jack Munoz. But we tried to delve deeper into the lore of H.P. Lovecraft. So fans of the stories of the writer from Providence will find a lot of references to popular stories like Horror at the Red Hook, or the Shunned House, or The Haunter of the Dark. So a lot of stories that fans have for sure have read if they're fans of Lovecraft. So it's I'm happy that from what I've seen so far, that of course a lot of that stuff survived into the actual script. So it's nice to be. You can almost look for those Easter eggs, because the references are not always so clear. So immediately found. So it's a nice hunt for those Easter eggs.
And can you give us a synopsis of the story itself?
Well, the story is hard to summarize from the point of view of, because it's very easy to get into spoilers. There are many things that there are many things in the backstories of the characters and the actual plot that are going to be found and revealed only as you read the story. We can delve into the beginning of the story, where it's a number of years after the first episode of the story. We see what happened to Jack Munoz, who survived the events in the first episode, and we see him in a way still suffering from the consequences of what happened. But that's one thing that, and that's one thing that I think is interesting about Death May Die, about what Death May Die brings to Lovecraft, and it's the fact that we are looking at characters who are not simply, passively suffering the effects of the Cthulhu mythos. So they're not simply falling. Becoming mad by seeing unspeakable things, or dying fighting impossible enemies. They are actually fueled by something. Normally, as you know, in the game, they're fueled by madness. So they have something that makes them different, than makes them capable of fighting the horror they find. And that's all in the story. But again, it's really difficult to go into details, because there's so much that is really tied to the secrets. What you need to know is that Jack Munoz is involved again in something, and he's called to investigate a young boy, and the young boy is central in the story, because he's been it's being used by someone again, of course, to bring some horrible supernatural entity to Earth. But who is doing this and who's pulling the strings is very much the main mystery in the story.
We have a few pages people can read now, and they are, a few of them are visible here. I think we have about 18 pages of samples, right, Kenneth?
Yeah.
And now, interesting. Full disclosure, I haven't read it. I mean, if even Francesco haven't read it yet, and he wrote the whole thing, what chance do I have? But there's not a line of dialogue here.
Not a lot of?
Not a line of dialogue here.
Okay. Well, actually, that's because probably you've been given
just
the panels, because they were before they were given the dialogue boxes. So for example, in the third panel you see to the right, there is actually dialogue. It's been removed, so you only see the art. So yeah, it's not that it's not simply driven by images, but there's yes, a lot. You can imagine the type of dialogue you have in the middle panel, because it's going to have a lot of noises, like breaking bones and people screaming.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of gruesome action being a horror story.
And just like in the game, they are facing against the cultists.
Yes. and dealing with them in a very violent way.
So Kenneth, of course, this also comes with extras. And what can you tell us about them? I have a few images here. And the secret
So
figure.
yeah,
One thing.
this doesn't really tell a lot about what they are. I mean, they're just miniatures, but you get I think 2 episodes with the extras, and there are a lot of care and attention has been put into these episodes. In fact, actually, I think overall a lot of care and attention has been put in everything, but specifically for D&D, like the episodes are like really well thought out. I think they are very amazing. The enemy figure is part of the story. We should not spoil the enemy figure, but let's
No.
just talk about no. We should talk about the investigators here. Um, I think Jack Munoz
Yes,
was
is the
also
first to the left. Yes.
yeah he is the first on the left, and he is also from the comic books volume 1, right?
Yes.
In particular, I think each of them have a very unique skill, but the ones that are the most unique here are Jack Munoz and Veronique, who both have special tokens for this comic book. In fact, I think Jack's skill in particular actually reflects on the sort of madness or like the trauma that he's faced, because he has this thing called the mystical insect, the one in volume 1. Spoiler alert, but
Yes.
like it already happened in volume 1. It flew into his ear, right, and it kind of possessed him. So the mechanics reflect this. And every turn, you basically flip a coin, flip the insect token. One side says brawling, and the other side says toughness. So the side that lands on, you gain extra levels to that skill, and as you improve it, it does different things. Like for example, brawling, you get to heal stress, and then toughness, you get to heal wounds, and then in the highest level gains you, I think, 2 levels of either brawling or toughness, and it swaps, right? So one turn, I could have like level 3 brawling, and then the next turn I have level 1 brawling but a level 3 toughness. So you are put at the hands of the coin. Your fate is in the hands of the coin, which is like the bug. Whatever it wants during that specific turn is what you get for that round. And so it's luck based, but it's
Yeah,
also a very
it's
strong ability.
interesting. It's interesting because, of course, it very well represents the idea, and that's another element that is connected to the stories, because the insect is an insect from Shagai, is a sort of a parasite that buries itself deep into the heads of people. And the story is that Jack Munoz has been fighting against the possession of this insect for years. But sometimes the insect takes over, but when it takes over, it can be positive because, of course, as the rules say, he can gain abilities that he normally doesn't have.
Yeah, definitely. And all of the other ones as well. I mean, I just highlighted Jack Munoz's ability, but the rest of the abilities are also very, very cool.
Yes,
So
some
you
of
get
them, it's interesting because they are more than they have more than meets the eye, because again, it's a spoiler, so we cannot say much. But they may, even if they're investigators, some of them may not be what it means, what it seems to be. So yeah, there's more in the story to be found about them that
definitely.
seems apparent.
We are running out of time, but let's see if we can tackle a few final questions before we say bye. Is it known when Volume 1 is hitting retail? So I think we covered this a little early on, but if you're joining us now, Zombicide is hitting retail in January. In fact, we already have a link. It's somewhere in the comment section. I'm sure it will be posted. You can pre-order it from stores. And the other should follow in the upcoming months, though we don't have a date yet. And of course, people are dying for spoilers. Kenneth, is there a chance we'll reveal the secret units?
No, I mean, I don't even. We were even contemplating on whether we should keep the units, the black units on the back of the box, so that only when you open the contents will you see the thing. And like, what is this? Why is it not on my box? You know. But
That's nasty.
but no, yeah, we have decided for for everybody's sanity that we'll put the reviewed contents on the back of the box for the gameplay contents.
But they are really cool. You can trust us on this.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh yeah,
They're
from
really
that you can be sure that they are cool figures. So yeah.
The lack of a sniper grandma is distressing me. This is not a question, it's just something I have found funny. That's an interesting one. I think this will have to be our final question. We are over 1 hour already. So how long are the comics? So I think this is it. We can start with Death May Die, since that's what we're talking about now. But I think it's cool to give a general idea of all of them, if possible.
Okay. I need to pull it up. So I think Death May Die is Zombicide.
Mhm.
All 120 pp long, printed pages, 120 pages. Invader is 108 pages. Black Plague is slightly larger. It's at 140 pages. Each of the Twilight books are about 120 pages, 118, 116 pages. Android Netrunner is about 120 pages. Hate comes in at a whopping 480 pages, combining the reprints of Volume 1 and Volume 2, and then the prequel that Agent Smith talked about, Volume 3. So that is in 2 books for 460, 480 pages around there. And finally, Dust comes in at about 60 pages.
Hey, that was a very precise answer. Thank you. Well, I guess that's the time we had for today. Francesco, you have any final words you'd like to say about Death May Die before we wrap this up?
Oh well, no, but reiterating that I'm really eager to see what happened with the story, and that I really look forward to continue, and whenever we will get the chance to do another one, and that's it.
Yeah, people are really excited about Death May Die. I check her social media a lot, and I can see that people are really excited. I think it's such a unique twist on the mythos, because there's this action aspect to it, and I can't wait to see what you've done with it. Well, thank you both so much for joining me, and thank you all for joining us. I hope we'll see you soon. So, bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you again.